I am here with the amazing Palak, who is the creator, founder, has the brainchild of Imberia. And I think I'm saying everything right. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Did a great job. Yeah, that's rare, but it was good.
As a New Zealander, I'm like, don't fuck it up. Yeah. Okay. Um, and you have this amazing book, which I just need to get my little sticky mitts on. Beautiful Everydays, a guide to living here and now. So
Yeah, I got
there
it.
was, oh, good. Look, you have it, show and tell. Perfect. Um, Many reasons why I wanted to chat to you, but something that really struck me when some of your team reached out is this is my path of most resistance. I have depression and anxiety. I am like Ford planner to the stars. And in my depressions moments, I'm just like backdating everything and going, you piece of shit. So I really struggle
Hmm.
being here and enjoying here unless I'm kind of acting and there's like a monetary exchange and a flow. So that is a very long-winded way of asking what is the book about, and probably a follow-up question or how you'd like to share with us kind of a why, because I'm assuming this came out of your own desires, unless you've mastered life, which is also entirely possible.
Oh, I wish. No, I love that you are talking about these things. First of all, thank you for being so honest about your own journey, because I think that's exactly what people need, is to hear that people like you are also going through your own stuff and working through it and wanting all the tips and resources. So that's a great way of sort of introducing the reason behind the book. And essentially, Beautiful Everydays is for people like all of us. You're not alone in what you feel. It's for everyone who really needs that time to slow down and take a step back and look at life and realize that if we don't take advantage of our day-to-day moments, it really is in these moments that create our beautiful life. So Beautiful Everydays, it's a guide to living in the here and now, but essentially it's like a cookbook, but for everyday experiences that you can have at home. And these experiences are meant to take you offline, put your phone down, tuck away anything that's a distraction, and just drop into the present moment and do it in a way that's really accessible. It's really easy. And it's not this big thing. Like, you don't need to go escape to the forest to have a digital detox. You can just find those moments in your everyday that calm you down and remind you that the current moment is all you have. And so there's beautiful activities in there that you can try. You can do them alone, with a partner, with children, and just ways for you to feel more grounded and present. And yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Could you give me an example of what one of those might be? Yeah.
Yes. So, for example, one of my favorite ones is called Cafe at Home, and it's really beautiful and simple, but there's photography in the book. So it takes you through all of the sort of how to actually create it. But this happened during the pandemic when my husband and I were obviously very bored and we were stuck indoors being in Canada. Everything was closed for a very long time. And so we got really creative around how to use our time. And one of the things I realized is during the time I wrote it over the pandemic was, why do we only need to have these moments when we're forced to be at home? Like, they're really beautiful things that we can create all the time. So Cafe at Home was one of the ones we did. We literally just changed our entire living room, turned it around into a cafe, like threw a tablecloth on a side table, did a pour over coffee. I had a tea, and we made this really beautiful experience. And if you look at the photography in the book, it looks like it's a cafe, like one that you would go to and enjoy. So why can't we have those moments and bring them into our everydays instead of us having to seek them out somewhere else? So that's an example. There's other ones that are nature filled activities. There's food related activities like brunch in bed, just making like a really beautiful brunch and enjoying it in bed, going for nature walks. And one of them is called Just Because Cake. And it's like, why can't we enjoy cake anytime? Why does it have to be like, even if you're a kid, you want cake all the time. So as an adult, why can't we just enjoy these things and really become a bit more light around life?
Love that. Do you, and speak as much or as little to this as you're comfortable, is being in the present something that's been inherently difficult for you, or do you find it easy, therefore you're sharing? Because so many of us find it challenging.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great question. And I will take you through sort of, you had asked about the
Yeah.
why behind the book. So it really started, I obviously have dug deep on this as to why I am so passionate about getting people to live really present lives. And I definitely try to do it myself all the time. And I luckily have gotten to a place where I'm able to incorporate a lot of these things. So now I can share it with others. But I've had my own journey around that. So when I was 15 years old, my dad passed away suddenly of a heart attack. And so I really realized in those moments how short life is. And unless you're faced with loss or something really extreme happens, you don't often get those lessons in life. And you can go through life sort of with your eyes closed, just working your way through life, thinking, all of a sudden you're retired and you wonder, what did I even do with the past 40 years? So I think it really got me to a point where now I can finally go through my journey knowing that I really just wanted to, sorry,
Oh, you're fine.
my dog is barking. So I just,
Oh, bring the dog in. That's fine. I've got a cat here and a spider. We're good. The
oh
dog.
my gosh, anytime the doorbell rings, it's like delivery man and he goes
Okay.
crazy.
Right.
Yeah, so I've definitely been on a journey myself. And then I started working corporate jobs. So I was working a corporate career for about 10 years. And then I started my own business. And I really realized that I was in this mode of productivity, of just constantly needing to be productive. I totally can relate to you. I've heard your past podcast episodes. That is me. I'm type A. I'm
Yeah.
super driven. I'm super ambitious, but I'm finally getting to a place after having a business for 7 years, realizing that it's in the moments where I pause and I slow down that my creativity truly flourishes. It's not in the moments where I'm pressing hard and I'm hustling and I'm just like not taking any time for myself. I mean, we all know in theory that it's nice to take moments to ourselves, have a bath, enjoy the day, go for a walk. Those are all lovely, but unless we're actually doing them and making them a part of our day to day, it is very, very hard to actually see the benefits of it. And so I've gone through this journey, and now I can finally say that I'm able to recognize quicker those times that happens. I can recognize it and I can notice that it's happening and stop it myself in my tracks and realize I need to take a few deep breaths. I need to do something from the book. I need to call a friend. I need to connect more with humans and maybe not be behind my screen as much. So there's a lot that I've come along this journey, but I'm still learning. I'm still growing. It's not so easy. And I think it's undoing a lot of the things that I learned as a child about hard work and productivity and, the need to constantly perform and achieve.
Hmm. I'm getting a lot of noise in my own brain, and this could be because it is my current situation, and I know it's a lot of people's current situation. Um, I wonder if you could maybe explain to me how you have navigated out of this, because we have a really beautiful, massive female audience of people who are kind of embarking on a path less traveled. And a lot of my audience relates to me because we are chasing something. We are goal oriented. Productivity is kind of how the bills are getting paid. With that comes hand in hand with this real resistance to be in our feminine energy of
Yeah.
receiving, being present. And part of that resistance, especially for me, is a financial burden, like the fear of like, well, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent this month. So I can't sit in a fucking bath and be like, I'm so happy. Like there's a logical brain that's really fighting that. And that's me being completely transparent of like, that all sounds great. And I totally know, and I can like imagine the vibe of that. But when there is that additional stress of finance, and I'm saying this to someone who's
Yep.
run a business for 7 years, so I could only imagine you've had seasons of that. Yeah, is there a way to marry the two that maybe you've found successful?
Yes, I love talking about this because I struggle with all the same things. I mean, I definitely, and especially over the past 7 years, I have complete guilt when I am not producing, performing, achieving. I totally feel guilty. I actually find it very difficult to relax and rest. It's counterintuitive to me. I'm just wired that way where I feel like I have to constantly do. And even at moments where I go and do other things, I feel guilty about it, or I will think, oh, that's sacrificing time that I could spend in my business to make money. So I completely understand, but there's definitely things that I've noticed and patterns that I've noticed over time that aren't serving me. So as much as I equate productivity to financial success and financial gain, I have also seen, and I've seen it myself, I've seen it from people around me, and I've seen it from a lot of men, to be honest, the ability to make money without having to constantly be productive. And I don't know if it's something that women struggle more with in terms of just doing it all and achieving it all and never having a moment to rest because we're just used to being in that energy. Whereas
Mm.
I do see my husband, and he has a way of flowing through his business and his time with so much more ease. He's able to take a step back. He'll like go play tennis or pickleball and be like, "Oh, I'm going in the middle of the day to do that for an hour." And I will be like, how could you possibly? Like, I have so
Are
much to
you
do."
insane? Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah, yeah. Oh, so you
exactly.
obviously don't give a shit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Right, yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm the one like behind my screen then for 10 hours a day, and that's not serving me either because I'm trying to produce at a capacity that is probably not healthy or good for me. And so some of the tips that I have around this are it's not necessarily about needing to like escape and do this beautiful activity for 2 hours a day in the middle of your day and not work. But I do think there needs to be not a balance, but an integration. So I kind of call it work-life integration. I don't necessarily know that we can achieve full balance, especially if you are doing projects and things that you love and or you work for yourself in any form. It's very hard to completely separate the two and say, now is work time and now is this time,
Mm.
social time, and now is fitness time. Like that sounds great in theory, but in actuality, it's a bit harder to do. But the ways that I do find help a lot are number one, minimizing screen time. I truly believe that, our phones and just access to social media constantly, it plays a massive role in our mental health and well-being. And so doing that, and then also what comes in tandem with that is spending more time gathering with people that light us up and actually fuel our energy and fill our cups. And I say that because we've sort of turned into a bit of a society, especially here in North America, where it's very easy to say no to plans. We cancel last minute. We have access to text where you can just like cancel on someone an hour before and it's sort of no big deal. So if someone's hosting something, it's very easy to just be like, "Oh, I'm actually not able to make it today." And despite that host probably having put in tons of effort on it. But what I will say is what I find is even if you're not feeling it necessarily and your energy is not 100% there, we often feel better in social environments, ones that we're comfortable in, at least with people that we know, than if we don't go and do those things. Because right now we're opting to say no. And then a lot of us are sitting at home, either binge watching shows or on our phones scrolling away for hours. And those are not things that are lighting us up, they're depleting us. And then we don't have the energy that we need to actually give to the work that we want to produce. So we're operating from a lower sort of capacity. So I do find that those two things, as much as it might feel like it could be energetically draining to go out and be in a social circle, which it can be for many people, but you can find the people that light you up. And
Yeah.
oftentimes you'll come back feeling so much better, like you have more energy, more creativity, more time and effort to kind of give into your work in a more productive way instead of spinning your wheels just because you think you need to equate time with productivity.
Oh, good. Wow. Yes. Gosh, it is really beautiful speaking to someone who I feel like I relate to at such a
Mm.
cool level on that. So thank you, because that's very helpful. I'm smiling because all day today, I'm like, I really don't want to go to this lunch. Not because I don't love the person. It's because I'm like, it means I have to put clothes on. I don't want to
Yeah,
fucking put clothes
it's
on,
effort.
get out of my slippers. And I'm like, should I even be doing that? I should be here. Like, you can't complain on one hand that you need to find rent, and then on the other hand, go to lunch. Like, it's just like this whole realm. But
Yeah, it's an internal conflict that I think honestly as society we're all facing it. I hear it more and more from people. I host events as part of my business and I bring women together and I see it all the time. Like there's a hesitation before people attend, whether it's solo or they're coming with friends. They hesitate. It does feel like a lot of work. And I think, that's a construct of we no longer live in villages where we live beside each other and you can just drop by the neighbor's place. It's like takes effort. We also have to present ourselves in a certain way. We feel like we have to keep up with sort of appearances. We might be taking content and then suddenly that's a whole other layer of what you're thinking about. So there's a lot that is at play with like social scenarios, which makes people less likely to want to just say yes right away and stay committed to it. But we also know research shows that, we need community to thrive, and being isolated and alone isn't going to benefit us in any sort of way. I mean, the loneliness epidemic is real, and the World Health Organization has deemed it as equivalent to smoking. Smoking 15 cigarettes a day is the same as sort of the feeling of being lonely. And being lonely it's a stressful thing. It can cause depression and anxiety and a lot of these other things. And so just making sure that you have a community of people around you that you can really see and let be yourself, and then you leave those scenarios feeling like, oh, you did something good for you. You actually, and I always see it at my events. People are hesitant necessarily to come, and then they come and they always leave. It's like 100% of the time, oh, I don't know why I don't do this more often. I feel so much better. It was so great. And, so the cycle continues.
My sister Rochelle, she's similar to you and like connecting amazing women, and it, I know you've been doing it for a long time. There is something sort of nuance, not being disrespectful to the people in New Zealand who have been doing it for a while, but it is kind of a new wave. This like it's not scarcity mindset. We could all help each other.
Yes,
Like I think that's taken a little while to get to New Zealand
absolutely.
for some reason, some perhaps
Mhm.
just the geographically or the concept. It's not that women haven't always supported women, but we wouldn't show up at something like that necessarily.
Yeah, I think that's actually such an interesting point, and I think it has to do with location. There might only be this thought of certain opportunities, they're scarce and they're not as unlimited as other parts of the world, and so there is a bit of that competition that happens. I think it happens everywhere, but you probably felt it maybe more in New Zealand. But I do see a swing the other way, where it is about collaborating and supporting and coming together, and
Oh,
how can we
good.
all lift each other up, which I do think, I mean, if you look back as to how societies were formed, women would always be coming together to raise children in villages and to actually help and support one another. So it was only when, it became women were working and entered the career sort of world that things shifted. But now I feel like we're coming back full circle a little bit to that energy.
I love it. One of the things I wanted to, and I don't know where time is just getting sucked away into a beautiful vortex, was about your experience with Jay Shetty. Now, specifically the fact that it seems like we're a little nervous, but kind of like kept something in you, kept pushing you to, maybe you could share the story for anyone who hasn't followed it on Instagram of like, yeah, I'll hand over to you about, yeah, not wanting to push in, but kind of ended up it being a beautiful experience. So.
Yes, this was a really lovely story about how if we really do take bold actions and risks and go after our dreams, that we can make magic happen. It's just a matter of aligning to that and believing in ourselves. So I was invited to go to a conference where Jay Shetty was the keynote speaker. This was, I was part of like thousands of people in the crowd, and I just was an attendee. I didn't have a backstage pass or anything like that. There was no meet and greet plan to happen, but I actually wrote in my journal probably 6 months before that. I had wrote when I launched the book, I had put in there and I put a little note and just people that I would love to get the book to. And he was the first person that I had written down on that journal entry. And it's funny, only now did I look back and actually see that. So it's funny how the world works. But I was invited to go see him speak. And right before I left, I had all those thoughts of how can I really take time away from my desk? I need to like write all these emails. I have so much work to do. And I don't know if I can afford an entire half day off to do this. And then at the last minute, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go because I obviously really love his work and I want to see him speak in person. That's going to be amazing. So I'm going to do this for myself. And at the last minute, I grabbed a copy of my book and stuck it in my purse, thinking in the off chance, like if there's any chance in the world, I could maybe give it to him or I don't know, someone else, maybe someone on his team. So I took it with me, not even like thinking, but knowing it was the right aligned action. And so at the event, basically he did his amazing talk. It was so powerful. And afterwards, he just disappeared behind the stage. And I don't even know what came over me, but I found a way to find the place that he was exiting through the back. And I just like calmly walked over. It wasn't like I was like crazily doing anything. I just walked over and I'm like, I don't know, there's a higher force that was just guiding
Yeah,
me and was like, you
good.
need to do this. You just need to do this and go. And I ended up like being right in front of him, and his PR people and his team were there and they're like, oh, he's not really doing meet and greets. I'm like, oh, that's fine. I actually just want to give him a copy of my book. And then he turned around and he saw me like wanting to hand the book over. And he's like, he took the book and he's like, thank you so much. That is so kind of you. And he was so sweet to me. And I was like, it
Made me
was
all juicy. So
right. I just had this moment where I was like, it was so beautiful because I was gifting him something that I truly think that he would love and benefit from. Him and his wife, they talk about living in the here and now all the time. And so I just wanted him to see it. It was for no other objective other than just to share it with him. And I think we had a really beautiful, pure moment of him saying that he was so grateful for that. We got to take a photo together. And And it was just amazing. Then he even said like, oh, the cover of the book is so beautiful. And I'm like, there is no world in which I could have emailed my way into this opportunity. Like I could have researched his PR people, his team. There's no way I was going to get that opportunity. But because I listened to my gut and thought there was something bigger that was meant to happen here, it happened, and it was so aligned and beautiful and wasn't forced. And I just feel like it was such a reminder to me that it's not always when I'm like at my desk working crazy hours and spending time like sort of banging my head against the wall figuratively, that the magic happens outside of those moments. Sometimes it does mean taking time away from what you're used to allow the magic to happen and allow the like good things to come in. Because if we're so busy in the doing, we're not necessarily receiving things.
Oh. Um, Thank you. Beautiful. Goosebumps. Delight. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, there something had to be at play there because it's not a normal reaction for us to, do that. And I think a lot of people would maybe feel that impulse, but be like, don't be ridiculous, you
Yes,
psycho. Like, like that would be the
exactly.
voices in my head. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so glad that whatever power that be. I do want to speak about faith a little bit. It's something that I'm trying to work through in therapy and hypnotherapy and with the artist's
Mhm.
way. Like, I think I've been in a season of rejection for so long, which is fine. That's what I signed up for. I know skip forward a year and I'll be like, thank God for that season. Like I logically know all of this. But I have found, and this is part of I have a negative self-talk, which
Mm,
I work daily to squash. I am in a bit of a season of a lack of faith that it will all work out. And I find that a really hard place to live in because when I reflect on my younger years, I had unwavering faith. I'm like, it's just a thing, we'll pivot. And for some reason, I think because there's collective depression at the moment
yeah.
financially, like I feel like I'm also taking on the world is on fire, the world, da da da, that everything feels a little glum. My little light feels quite dim. And that's really scary to me because I'm like, usually that's my thing is this unwavering faith that it'll all work out. Have you felt that either now or previously? And what have you found to be helpful?
Mm. I'm sorry that you're going through it. I know I totally,
Logically, it's so fun because I know I'll be reflecting on this, but oh yeah, that was whatever. But when you're
you
in it,
know, it's the human experience. And I will say that I've had so many moments like that. I mean, especially since I decided to go into entrepreneurship. I think that's when all of a sudden it became, being directed to do things at a corporate job and just operating in that way, to then realizing I'm 100% responsible for the outcome. I have to seize the opportunities. I have to go after it. I have to put my all into it. There was so much more, and I've gone through that journey now over 7 years, and it happens all the time with every new thing that I launch. When it comes to work, it's like whether I was doing my first event, my 100th event, or then when I launched the book. I mean, just up till recently, like a few weeks ago, I was working on the book and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've worked on this for 4 years and it's finally out there, but now I got to make sure that it sells and it gets into people's hands. And then I had that whole thing where, oh, but I've believed in myself for so long. There, like, when is my, I would, sort of be like, when's my moment? And my moment as in, when is it all just going to be figured out? And it'll just be like me riding the wave and I'm not like really having to like push so hard anymore. And
yeah.
it's been 7 years of those kinds of thoughts coming up all the time, because whether I was selling an event out or then the next event I would run and I wouldn't necessarily sell as many tickets, and it would start, all the doubts would creep in again, like, am I meant to be doing this? And is this going to financially pay off, and all of that. So I've had all of that happen. And I would say that the thread throughout all of it that's kept me going is exactly that knowing. It's that higher
Oh,
purpose
hold
knowing.
on 1 second. You're just right in the cusp of that more thing. Your volume is gone.
It's gone. Can you
Oh
hear
no,
me?
there now it's back again. That was so weird. You're like da 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 knowing.
I can repeat it. I'll repeat the part at the
Yeah.
end. Okay. Sorry, that's strange. I don't know why that happened. Yes, it's the fact that after all of these events, looking back on the 7 years, the one thing that sort of kept me going is that inner knowing. It was just this deep knowing that you probably have, that I have, that so many of your listeners probably have, where It's just this knowing that you are meant for more, or you're meant for a big dream or a big life, or you have this vision and you have these visions come to you. And there's a reason we have that. It's not because we're just big dreamers and we don't want to make them happen. It's because we're meant to make those things happen. And so although there's going to be phases in life where it's not necessarily happening, we wouldn't have those thoughts or dreams if they weren't meant for us. Like our human brain wouldn't even be thinking them. There's people in the world that would never have some of the dreams that we have. They couldn't care less to do any of the things that we've done. And, they don't have visions of having certain things in their career or writing a book or all that. But you and I have had that. And a lot of people have had that for a reason. And so I always kind of come back to the place like I was meant to be doing this. I am meant to be doing this. I'm on the right path. That path might not be linear. It might not, be the cleanest path where it's like so easy, but I know that there's going to be little rewards along the way, big rewards along the way. And one day I will look back and realize how far I've come. And I don't think that we do enough of that. I think even if you look back at as to how much you've done so much more than probably somebody that might have been in your shoes 20 years ago, wishing they could have done those things. So it's hard to remind ourselves that once all the dreams that we had, we did make them happen in a certain way, and we're going to continue to make them happen. But it's just that reminder to ourselves that we're still in it. It's life. We're still in it. We're making them happen. They'll continue to happen. We have no idea what's around the corner.
So good. Thank you. Thank you for that. That hits me on a personal level. I think I've opened the door to like, because I'm pursuing like not the Hollywood dream, but that kind of
Yeah.
a dream that so many have done. And I think just being here in America for a little while, like people have dropped off and they've created other businesses and are doing other things. And like, because they've invested 5 or 6 years into doing that, like I'm sitting here going like, okay, I'm still in the same apartment, like, and so I'm comparison, the thief of joy. I don't usually let that door open. And because it has, and I'm looking at that, it's opened this new tab that I'm not used to in this season. And I think that's probably what I'm wrestling with.
Yeah, and I think that as long as you're still feeling aligned to those dreams, that they're meant to
Oh,
happen.
totally.
And so that's the thing. If you're still in it, a lot of those people might have pivoted or done other things because maybe it's not lighting them up in the same way. But if you're still aligned and you still have that vision, there's a reason you're still hanging on to it and you still want to make it happen. Like I feel like, at least I believe that for myself. It's like when I think of these big dreams, I'm like, I would have given up on that years ago. Like writing a book, it might be seemingly easy. Now I understand why authors say it takes them years. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, the fact that I spent 4 years on this, if I really didn't want this, why would I volunteer to do it? I wouldn't have done it. I would have been like, no way, not for me, too
Mm.
much. But I didn't. I kept going. And so I think all these little things are meant to lead to other things. And we'll only get to really see the big picture of that towards the end of our lives where we look back.
That's true. That's so good. Thank you so much. The last question I have, which I literally wrote at the top of my page because I'm like, I should start with this, but I already didn't. Um, Something I ask all my listeners is what their brain looks like. And it could look like a garden, it could look like a rough sea, a haunted house. I'm just curious what would you reflect up if it were an image or a scene? What would it
That's
look
such an interesting question. I think, funny enough, you said garden first, and that was probably one of the first things. Like, whenever I do visualize or I do visualization meditations, I always picture like a garden with a waterfall and there's like sunflowers in the field. I don't know if you know the secret garden, but kind of like that
Yes.
vibe. Yeah. So that I would say that, but then of course there's like probably thunderstorms and things that happen in the garden too that come along. But I would love to like sort of think that when I close my eyes, that's kind of what's there.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Mhm.
What was the story about Secret Garden? Because we must be of similar age then, because I feel like that's a reference that I, in my mind, refer to.
Yeah,
Did she escape to like a locked door and then there was this
they
magic?
like unveiled a garden. I can't remember the
Or was
exact
it in her imagination?
I can't remember the exact thing, but I should go back and watch it because I just remember relating to it as like a young girl and being like, this garden is so beautiful. I want to be in this garden. I've always referenced it. So I should probably go back and like read the book or watch if there's a movie.
Yeah, I was like, I can't remember if it was like real or it was in her, like she was in a like derelict garden and she was imagining it was great.
I feel like that's the whole point though, right? Because whatever we can picture in our minds can become a reality. So the cool thing about that is it doesn't actually matter because whatever we wouldn't think a thought if it weren't able to happen in real life.
Okay. I'm going to do something I've never done before and look on Amazon really quickly while you're right here with me, because no one has ever referenced The Secret Garden to me. The Secret Garden book. Yeah, it's okay. So it's a graphic novel. All right.
Oh,
We should buy it. We should totally read.
yeah, totally. Now I'm gonna go get it because I feel like I need to revisit.
That's beautiful. Hey, Palak, thank you so much for your time. What a beautiful gift it has been in my day. Perfectly at the right time that I needed an injection of
Oh,
life, but I know my listeners will feel the same way. So, um, if anyone wants to get the book, as they should, as I am going to, where can they get it?
yes, you can find it on Amazon. You can also head to my website for any of the details, and that's embiria.ca, embiria.ca.
Mhm. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.